Now get ready. Here we go.
Maxx Force is the newest roller coaster to open at Six Flags Great America. It is an SNS air launch roller coaster that has the fastest acceleration in North America, accelerating from 0 to 78 miles per hour in less than 2 seconds. Now, as a lot of you may know, this ride is probably my most anticipated roller coaster of 2019. I've been wanting a full circuit launch roller coaster to come to Six Flags Great America ever since I started going to the park when I was 11. And to finally see one and to have it be something of this caliber really got me hyped to ride this thing. Now, going into this ride, I really didn't have a base of what to expect like I would with other rides. You see, with other manufacturers such as B&M and RMC and Intamin, I've ridden enough of those rides that I'd be able to kind of judge how a new ride would feel based on animation and point of views. But since S&S hasn't really designed that many air launch roller coasters, well, none that I've ridden anyway, I really was kind of going in blind. I had just seen the animated POV and a little bit of test footage, but I really had no idea how this ride would feel. So that kind of added to the excitement going in because this was such a new roller coaster, such a new concept compared to other stuff that I've ridden. Now, onto the POV of the ride. So the ride starts with the record-breaking 78 mile per hour fast accelerating launch, and then immediately soars up into this banana roll-like element that most people are calling the dog tongue, and then back down onto the track into the world's fastest inversion, taken at over 60 miles an hour, then up into this lagoon roll into a dive loop element, and that's it. That's Maxx Force. So, before I get into my in-depth thoughts on the ride, I decided I'd like to share my experience with my first rides on Maxx Force and how honestly terrible it was. So on July 3rd, I went to the park to ride Maxx Force and was greeted by unfinished queue that really just looked like crap. I mean, there was like tools and stuff lying up, like half it wasn't even painted. The fins on the top of the station weren't done. Basically, a lot of cosmetic stuff wasn't done with Maxx Force. The ride just looked unfinished. It looks like they just rushed a 4th of July opening for some reason. And then this isn't even the main focus of this whole rant I decided to do. The real reason why I'm talking about this is because on July 3rd, it was Member Preview Day. So Six Flags members got to ride Maxx Force starting at 10:30, and it would be just open for members. Now, I'm not a member because the Six Flags memberships are honestly a waste of money, and I get just as much out of a season pass for about $70-ish each year. So I saw that starting at 3 o'clock, they had a special ride time for those who bought a Maxx Force t-shirt. Now, I had already bought one earlier, so I figured that I could just walk in, and since I was wearing the shirt, that they would just let me ride. However, that was not the case because, Six Flags has to be Six Flags. They made me buy a second shirt just to get on the ride, just so they would give me this receipt, I guess, to say that I bought it today. And I later found out the reason why they did that is because they had a sign out front saying that they would not let you return the shirt you bought. So that was a load of garbage. I mean, I did eventually find a way around it. I bought the identical Maxx Force shirt and then a week later went back to the park and just exchanged it for something that I actually liked. So, I mean, sure, I bought another shirt from them, but at least I bought something I'd actually use. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So now, 5 minutes into the video, let's actually talk about the ride. So, if I had to use one word to describe Maxx Force, I would use intense. The launch is extremely intense. The inversions, very intense. It's not a very long ride, but it doesn't really matter. Like, you don't notice it as much as, say, something like Goliath because of the intensity of Maxx Force. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, it's essentially a similar feeling to Top Thrill Dragster. It's like, yeah, sure, it's not a very long ride, but it's such a rush just tearing through that course that, like, you don't really mind it. You know, I feel like if the ride was longer, it might lose some speed and it wouldn't really end as strongly as it does. So, in a way, I actually think that the length almost works in its favor because it's able to maintain such a intense, insane, rapid pace throughout its whole course. The launch itself is one of the best launches I've ever experienced on a roller coaster. You really feel that acceleration and pull a ton of G's as you come tearing out of that tunnel. It almost reminds me, I keep bringing up Top Thrill Dragster because I feel these rides are very similar. The launch is very different to Top Thrill Dragster, but I think it is about as good. You see, with Top Thrill Dragster, the acceleration obviously isn't as quick, but the launch is a lot longer, so you really feel the speed and you really feel, how fast you're going. With Maxx Force, it's almost the opposite. The launch is so short and the acceleration is so quick. I mean, sure, it's over quickly, but it is such, it's such a rush and such a unique experience. Now, another highlight of this ride are the inversions. So the first two, which are the big dog tongue, are very nice inversions, and they're okay, nothing special. Just it's a very cool element. Um, I like the way that it dives back to the ground after leveling out. But my favorite inversion on this ride has to be that low to the ground 0G roll that is the fastest inversion in the world. Now, for some reason, I think it might just be the restraints, but I almost get a sort of airtime when flying through that inversion. It's such a fast inversion. It really whips you through. It reminds me of that 0G roll on Kumba at Busch Gardens. It is so intense. And so right after that inversion, you're sent straight up into this double inversion that I'm calling the Lagoon Roll because it's kind of similar to that element on Cannibal. So it turns you upside down into about a 90-degree stretch, and then you turn back upside down and go down the dive loop and into the brakes. And the brakes I actually kind of like. Like, I know a lot of people complain about, oh, there's brakes on the dive loop, but it's such a unique sensation. It's such like a jarring sensation to be just like stopped while you're still going down that I actually kind of like it. It's really weird and really quirky, but so yeah, and the last thing I want to talk about with this ride are its restraints. These might be some of the best restraints on any roller coaster I've ever ridden. Let me explain why. So, with most roller coaster restraints, the restraints come down and throughout they basically just come down as far as they can go. So even if you have them up a little bit during the ride, it can still come down and kind of, press hard on you. These, once you get out of the station, they lock in place. They don't go up, they don't go down. So if you have a couple inches of room, that restraint isn't going anywhere. So that kind of adds to the craziness of this ride, that it is such a free sensation because the restraint isn't squeezing you. The trains are very open. It's just a little lap bar. Yeah, I think a lot more rides should use this style of restraint, especially the RMC rides that can come down a little tight. And overall, Maxx Force is without a doubt the best roller coaster at Great America. It met my very high expectations and provided a intense, forceful ride with an incredible launch. And with all that said and done, I have decided to give Maxx Force a 5. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more coaster reviews.
Wow, 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 wow.